Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, today it's all about the trains going across the United States. See, a few years ago, a game called Free Ride came out from designer Friedemann Friese, who's the designer of Power Grid, most well known from. And I reviewed that game very positively, and so 3 years later, they're now coming out with a Free Ride USA, which is a different map, of course. It moved from Europe to USA, but there's also some slight mechanism changes as well. So let me show you how this game works, and I'll see you on the other side. In Free Ride, you're going to have a train, and you're going to have some routes that you're going to be trying to get to. You're going to have a train moving around, you're going to be building track, and you're going to be using money sometimes to use other people's tracks or gain it when they use your tracks. So here's what the board looks like, and as you can see, it's the United States. They have color-coded sort of regions. That will help a little bit, and so you're trying to get these routes finished. At the beginning of the game, you have one place to hold a route. So you're going to be going from Miami to Cincinnati, for example. On your turn, you can do one of three things. You can either build up to two tracks, or you can move up to two cities. The third thing you do is when you're out of train tracks, you can get more tracks. So I'm starting in Miami down there, and for a turn, you can put two tracks. I like to go something like this. Literally, it's the next person's turn. That's how fast these turns are. Now, next turn, if I wanted to go over here, I could, but you can only put up to two. So what this does is you put this little hammer here. This reminds you that next time you build tracks, you have to finish this first. And so that's sort of an unfinished track, if you will. So you do have to finish tracks when you do them, but instead of going that way, we're gonna go this way. So that's one track, and then this is another one. So that's like my first two turns. My next turn, I can move up to two cities. I go 1, 2. Now, when you build these tracks, when you build them, you actually place one of these on there. This shows you that you have ownership of those. And every single one, you're just gonna put it on the first track that you build in each spot. So we kind of go like this. Now this tells me that this is mine. Now anytime you use your tracks or state run, which I'll go over in just a moment, it's free. So I'm able to go 1, 2 for free. Now I'm trying to get to Cincinnati, but now let's say this. Now I could move here, but then I could move here as well. But this is owned by the yellow player. So here's the thing. If I use this, I've got to spend a coin and give it to them. Now coins are very important in this game because they're worth 3 points, which is a lot in this game. And if I give it to them, I'm losing 3 points and giving them 3 points. So that's a tough thing to do. So do I want to do it where I go 1, 2 and get closer to Cincinnati? Or do I want to go 1 and then start to build here, right? So do I want to, instead of using their route, maybe I want to build 2 more routes here because that's still available. Now, of course, these are going to be my routes like this. And then next turn, after this player moves, I could go, 1, 2 for free, and then maybe build up here. But instead, let's just say I did want to use their route. In this case, I could go 1, 2. I would give them a coin. This comes off, which means it's state run, which means anyone, including other opponents, can use that for free. Now let's say I was here, and for my turn, I'm going to move to Cincinnati. Now I would have finished this route. Now I have Cincinnati, Miami. This would get face down next to me. This is going to be scored. Every time I go to a city that I have not been to, at the end of the game, it's going to be worth 5 points. However, over the course of the game, you're going to be going to cities sometimes multiple times. If you ever get the same card twice, it's 2 points instead of 5 because it's easier for you to get there. So you're trying to spread out and get to new cities, but sometimes you'll also be using other cities in order to get there. And that's important because each of these are worth 3 points at the end. So you got 5 points for cities you haven't been to that you finished, or you connected and got there. 2 points for a city that you've already done, or 3 points for each coin you have at the end of the game. Now there's a display of cards out here because I need to get another route, but you have to go to one of the starting spots. We have 6 different routes, and each of the routes have 2 possible startings. You could start at Pocatello and go to Jacksonville, or you could start at Jacksonville and go to Atlanta. So it's always this to this or this to this. So you could look at the region and go, okay, yeah, I'm in a yellow region there. You might go, okay, wow, I might want to get to Detroit and then go to Houston, for example. So in the future, if I built a train and I've gotten here to Detroit, so I would take this and I would put Houston on top of it because that's where I'm trying to go to. This would get discarded and 3 new routes would come out, like Sacramento to New Orleans or New Orleans to Fort Worth. And so this shows me where I'm trying to get to, Houston. Now eventually the level 1 cards are going to run out, and then you'll be going to level 2 cards. And when that happens, you'll actually now have a second car here that you can hold a second route. So now you can be working on sort of 2 routes at the same time. And once the level 2s of the deck are gone, there's only level 3s left, then you actually flip this over. And instead of being able to move 2 cities, you'll be able to move 3 cities. So as the game goes on, it sort of scales with you. So most of the time, you're placing tracks or you're moving. But the last thing you can do is get tracks. If you have 0 or 1 tracks left, for your turn, you spend your whole turn getting 5 more rail cars into your supply. However, when you build rails, if on the turn that you build them, at the end you have 0 or 1, you can spend a coin to get 5 right then, meaning that you don't have to waste a whole turn to get tracks. And that's a whole efficiency thing of when you should race to get to have a more efficient aspect, or sometimes it might not be that bad for you to wait another turn. So that's a lot of what you're deciding here. Now the game will end once the third deck is depleted or it has been sort of dealt out there. And then there's some interesting aspects as to when you want to end the game. You have some agency as to when you want to withdraw. If you withdraw early, then you actually will get coins every time it comes back to you, but other players are gonna be trying to do routes. So there's an interesting end game there. You know, at the end of the game, you're gonna have many more routes in this, but again, every route that you've been to that's unique, you get 5 points. Every one you've been to, so this one would be 5 points, but the second time you get a card, this one's worth 2 points. Each coin is worth 3 points. Whoever has the most at the end is a winner. Now I do want to bring up something about this game that I feel like there's a way to improve it, and so I want to show you this, for example. Right now you have 12 different routes you could go to. And if it's like how I had showed you before, you're trying to decide like where should you go, right? Right now I know I'm going to Houston, but let's say I could carry a second route. What am I going to pick up? Well, it's really hard to, even if you with the colored regions, it's hard to kind of look at these 12 possible routes and see which one does it make sense to really go to. I mean, you could look at these individually, but you're going to be looking at the map and back to here 12 different times every time you're trying to make the decision. And I find that as spending time of doing things that you shouldn't really necessarily be doing. You should be thinking about other things. And so what I found that works really well, and actually I learned this from Eric Martin from Board Game Geek as well, is that I basically set a dice of a certain color. So I have different dice colors here. I got these from my game Las Vegas that I like a lot. And so like this route is red, this route is blue, this route is green. And so now, instead of looking at 12 different things back and forth for the map to here, the map to here, the map to here, all I have to do is look at this map. And for example, I look at the white ones. So I know white is either going to be from El Paso to Oklahoma City, so 1 to 2, or 2 to 3. So it's either going to be from here to here or here to here. The blue one's going from here to here or here to here. The red one's going from here to here or here to here. So you could very quickly look at the map and go, well, you know what? I know I'm going to be heading down to Houston, right? And so you can already start to make your plan as to what route am I going to pick up. Well, I probably want to come through New Orleans because then I can come and drop this off here, right? But if that gets taken, maybe I'll come through this way because I can get this and then come to here afterwards. It's just really, with one look, you're looking at the map and you can instantaneously look at 12 different routes at the same time and really home in on which one or two you want to start to work on as opposed to looking back and forth. So I know I'm hopping on this, but quite honestly, the gameplay is very different when you use this versus when you don't. I find this much more enjoyable and speeds and streamlines the game a lot. That allows you to spend your time thinking about decisions and not necessarily going back and forth just trying to see what might be possible. All right, well, there's Free Ride USA. Let me first tell you what the things I liked about the game, and many of this is going to be similar to my original Free Ride review, the Europe version, which also is very good. This game is a streamlined train game with very quick and snappy turns. I mean, it's like boom, next turn, boom, next turn, boom, next turn. It's like even with a higher player count, it comes back to you pretty quick. And yeah, it's quick and easy to play. Only 3 things you can do in your turn, but lots of thinking with that. There's huge amounts of depth here because you're thinking about the timing of building. And so, do I build or do I move? What's the timing of building? What's the timing of moving? Should I move now or should I build now? You know, you can build to the edge of anywhere you could move. So it's like, should I move over there to kind of like threaten other people to let them know I'm moving in this direction to kind of like make them not want to go get that route that I want to go get? Or do I want to build off of the end of my route, knowing that other people may be coming from the other direction in this direction, and they might need to use my trains to pay me money to do it. So there's an interesting thing of timing of sure, you're basically just building trains, moving your train on those tracks, or getting more tracks. That's all you're doing mechanically. But there's definitely a lot of thought and interaction, huge interactions with the other players as to going around like that. So the timing of building and when to build and when to move and when to move and when to build, those are always tough decisions, even though they're from a mechanical perspective, they're quite simple. I like that you're trying to build in the path of progress because, again, you can only build off of an edge of where you can actually move your train to. But a lot of times you might be building in a way that hey, you know what, that's right in the middle. It's I could be using that later. I might use it for this next route, but it's really going to be in the middle where a lot of people are building. So maybe I'll build there and maybe I can get the coin payoff for that anyways, and then still be able to use that route. So building in progress is kind of a cool thing. The game has a lot of turn angst because you're watching where other players' trains are. You're watching where their tracks are, and you're watching them move, and you're like, oh gosh, should I just move now and put the pressure on them and let them know that I'm going this direction so they maybe have different plans, or do I are they going to go where I'm going? Are we racing for the same thing? And so there's this turn angst that goes on that makes the game what it is, in my opinion. When to spend a coin. This is like a really cool thing in this game because a coin essentially is worth 3 points, which is a lot in this game, right? If you go to one of the cities and you finish a route, if you've never been there before, it's 5 points. If you've already been there, it's only 2. So coins are quite big in this game, right? And when you spend a coin, not only are you losing 3 points, you're giving 3 points to someone else. So it's like a 6-point swing between you two. You and the player that you gave it to. So spending coins, you really have to decide when to do that, right? So there's a lot of good decisions of like, okay, do I spend a coin to move and use this player's track? And I love that when you do that, you give them the coin and then their ownership comes up and becomes state run. It's free for everyone else. So a lot of times you're like waiting back for other people to do things so that you can wait until that thing is a state run, right? But you're trying to figure out when to use the coin. Do I use it now? Do I really need to use this coin now to move into this now because I need to go get this route before somebody else gets it because it's perfectly set up for my track, right? Well, that might be worth it for you then, but it might not be. The other thing is like you can use the coin to get more tracks. If you're putting more tracks out, you can, and you have 0 or 1 left at the end, you can spend a coin, essentially 3 points, for efficiency, essentially getting 5 tracks back for a future turn, as opposed to waiting and wasting your entire next turn getting those tracks, right? Not hugely mechanical things, not like super deep decisions, but they're very tactical and they're very fun to deal with. Sometimes you need to do it, sometimes you don't, and you got to find that. And that's like the crux of this game and why it's so great. I like that this specific version is a little different, where routes that go from like east coast to west coast have the little puzzle. They put double coins on them. So when you take the route, you get those, which is essentially giving you 6 points, but it's going to be harder and longer for you to get there, right? However, you could grab one of those routes towards the end of the game and, hey, I don't care. It's my second route. I'm not going to do it, and you're going to get 2 coins for it, right? Now, at the end of the game, if you don't finish that, you withdraw. Sure, you don't get the extra coin you would if you had finished all your routes, but you're still getting an additional coin in that case. And so, like, sometimes it's good at the end of the game just to snatch those routes up just to get the extra coin from it, right? So that's interesting too. The end game timing. I like that, once the cards run out, you can decide whether to withdraw or not, right? And sometimes you want to just finish it out real quickly and withdraw. Sometimes you're like, oh, I'm way too far away. I'm going to withdraw. Because every time it goes around, you're getting a coin, which is 3 points, right? And you got to say, is it better for me to possibly get 3 points for a few more turns or go get this route? And it's interesting, very interesting as to when you decide to withdraw, depending on where your train's at, what routes you have. And manipulating the end game timing is always interesting to me. Now, on the negative side of things in this game, I basically have 2 negative things to say about the game, and it's the same 2 negative things I had to say about the original game. Now, this game, they color-coded the regions, which does help some. If you're looking for your next route, you could be like, hey, I'm in the yellow region. Let me go look and see where the yellow cards are. It can help. However, if you're like close to the edge of that region, it doesn't help as much because it's like, hey, the pink region might actually have something that's closer to me than the yellow region, right? So it doesn't always help. It can help. But it doesn't outdo the issue that I have with when you look at all these cards and you look at all the different routes and you're looking at the map and you go left and right, right, looking back and forth to try to plan out your current route, your next route. It takes a lot of mental gymnastics that isn't hard to do, but it's time consuming and you spend the time thinking about things that you shouldn't need to think about. Where I showed you in the overview of the little workaround I've always done, and it still works well here, is you put sort of some dice out and you can just look at the board, and every time new routes come out, you just reset the dice up and you just look, so that way you can just look at the board and see, okay, I'm gonna go from here to here, and then later on I'm gonna go from here to here, and you could just look, in 1 second you can look and make a plan, as opposed to doing this checking 12 different routes thing. So I still think that using the dice as I showed you does make the game a lot more enjoyable. There were other reviewers that had similar feedback to me about this, like Eric Martin at Board Game Geek on the original one. I'm a little surprised that they didn't implement some sort of dice in this, but everyone sort of has dice, so whether or not you have 6 different color dice, that I don't know, but I highly recommend you using the dice. It does make the game play a lot smoother and a lot quicker. The other thing is, the game, if you use all the cards in the game, it can overstay its welcome. The box says 55 minutes. Even with the higher play counts, it will play that playtime if you do my little workaround, which is in a 2-player game, you take out the cards that have the 2-player symbol on them. Basically, every city is going to be in the deck twice now instead of once, instead of 3 times, I mean. Regardless of player count, I always play with this, and I'll tell you why. Because if not, you're playing a 90-minute game, and this game is a little, it's engaging and it's awesome, but the depth of the game, 90 minutes, quite honestly, is too long for this game. 60 minutes is perfect for this game. And the game, I feel like I get a full game. Sure, you get to level 2 a lot quicker, almost like right after setup in a 4 or 5 player game. But I feel like I've played the game. I feel like I've gone through the different levels, 1, 2, and 3, and I feel like the game's over right at 60 minutes when I take the 2-player cards out. So when I play this game, I still just take the 2-player cards out regardless of player count, and I know Friedemann Friese is probably pulling his green hair out right now going, what? What are you doing? My perfect design. Yes, I get it. But for me, when I do play it with all the cards in, it just overstays its welcome a little bit. So with my 2 workarounds, the dice using to track everything and taking out the 2-player cards, the game's perfect for me. You might find it different, but for me, those are my only negatives, but they're easy workarounds. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships with board games by helping you play the next one you love. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and their 4.5 Kickstarter introduced the new Galactic Mycroft and Watson Game Toppers with interchangeable rail inlays, as well as new game mats, miniature gaming terrain packs, leg kit options, dining covers, accessories, and amazing package deals. The campaign recently ended, but it's not too late to pledge late at GameToppersLLC.com.